Good morning, everyone. My name is Fan, and I'll be your hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works today. Cerise Waiters is the clerk for this hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterward through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there is no sign-in sheet. So if you would like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. This public hearing is being held to consider 4 items. Please note that order number 204287 has been rescheduled for another public hearing date. The remaining 4 items for consideration today include order number 204288, which is to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for an illegal removal of one street tree adjacent to 463, 465, 44th Avenue. Order number 204289, to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for the illegal pruning of one street tree adjacent to 2245 28th Avenue. Order number 204290, to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for the illegal removal of one street tree adjacent to 746 Andover Street. And order number 204291, to consider an appeal from the property owner for fine issued for illegal removal of one street tree adjacent to 229 Judson Avenue. My job as a hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing item, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make determinations. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendation to the Director. The Director will then make the final determination. When the Director's determinations are made, the department will notify them if you have provided your contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows for the 4 cases. First, I will ask Public Works staff to speak first and present the case, and then I will allow the property owner to speak, and then any member of the public or witness who wants to speak, and then again the department if the department would like to address any comments, and then finally the property owner again if the person has any rebuttals. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. If you are party to this proceeding, I will call on you to speak. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you're a member of the public witness who wants to speak, wait for me to call for public comments. Then use the Zoom's raise your hand feature if you are on a computer to put yourself in the queue to speak. If you are dialing in on your phone, dial *9 to indicate you're raising your hand. When it is your turn to speak, I will recognize you. If you're on the phone and you're muted, press *6 to unmute yourself. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. Please remember that comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department or the applicant or property owner. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony to me by the end of this meeting. If I feel that a question is warranted, I will ask the question. After all comments are completed, I will close the item. We will now begin the hearing. First up is order number 204288, to consider appeal for the property owner for the fine issued for illegal removal of one street tree adjacent to 463, 465, 44th Avenue. The fine levied for the illegal removal is $6,200. May I have Public Works please make their presentation?
Yes, let me just share my screen. And I do have kind of a short presentation before the actual case number that we'll be discussing. So all of the hearing order numbers today fall into a couple of categories covered by the tree ordinance, the Urban Forestry Tree Ordinance. Section 808 covers the protection of trees and landscape material. The important portion to pay attention to here is in red. This covers trees or landscape material that are intentionally or maliciously or through gross negligence injured or destroyed. As we move through the cases, we'll all point out which trees fall into these categories. Section 806 covers the planting and removal of trees. If there's been a removal, if the department grants a tree removal permit, it shall require that the tree or the street tree or trees equivalent replacement value to the one removed be planted in its place, or an in lieu fee will be imposed. The in lieu fee is set at a certain price depending on the cost, including labor, that it takes our department to plant a tree and water it for 3 years until the tree is established. So that's how we arrive at the in lieu fee, which we'll get to later on in the presentation as well. This portion here, section 808, covers the protection of trees that is required for construction work or work that's done to a particular property or an address, and it relates to the trees adjacent to that address. If excavation, construction, or street tree work is planned within the drip line of a significant tree, landmark tree, or a tree on any street or other publicly owned property, said trees shall be adequately protected during the construction. I don't think any of the cases today fall into this category in terms of the construction portion or working on routes or anything like that, but we'll get into that as we move forward. Definitions, injure or injury, basically that's doing anything to the tree that's going to adversely affect its ability to stay in the location that it is, in the condition that it is. Anything that contributes to the decline of the tree's health would be considered injury. Pruning, which in and of itself will kill or cause the tree to decline, or severe or severing of all or part of a tree falls into these definitions of injure or injury. Typically in arboriculture, best management practices say that not more than 25% of a tree's canopy can be removed or should be removed within a growing season, typically a year. That's just to maintain the tree's ability to regenerate and grow to its mature size. And you don't want to cut branches that are, less than 1/3 to 1/2 the size of the main branch. That's just, again, to help the tree maintain its current health and for it to grow each growing season and continue on. This covers an illegal practice in San Francisco that we see topping trees. Basically, you're removing all of the green material, the leaves from the tree. Anybody who is found to have topped trees will be fined. That's what brings us here today. There are lots of detrimental things that happen to a tree when you top it. Up here, weakly attached branches will begin to grow pretty rapidly after such a pruning job is performed. As you can see in the picture, there's lots of green growth here, and someone could easily say, oh, this tree is doing well, it has lots of green branches. But these places where these shoots are growing out of the stems of the tree are really weakly attached, and you can see they're pretty tightly clustered. As these limbs begin to grow, these weak areas of attachment are going to cause further complications, and if it's left to grow for very long, these will get pretty significant in size and weight and could cause tree limb failures in the future, and just becomes a maintenance a pretty cumbersome maintenance job to take on. Again, here's more examples of a tree that had been topped. You can see the larger main stem here, and then a lot of this what's called epicormic growth, where the trees begin to sprout out these just smaller shoots. And basically it's the tree's stress response. The tree is responding to all of the significant cuts that have been made, and it's trying to photosynthesize as much as it can to recover. And it's just really kind of a pretty telltale sign that the tree is struggling. This is what could happen. It looks like this tree was previously, if it wasn't topped, it was really significantly cut back. There's some large cuts here. And then these shoots, if we go back to, oops, sorry about that. Go back to these shoots are kind of really, really tightly clustered. And you can see here what happens when those branches get larger. They just begin to get really gnarled and crossed. And this is pretty, the future of this canopy is not looking good, because these will continue to grow in caliper size and crowd each other out and eventually force each other to either crack or fail completely. And when tear outs happen, or improper pruning, I guess here is what it's showing, will cause areas where the pathogens can enter the tree's vascular system. Over here on the right, you can see that there's, what happens is water will sit in these openings and get stuck in the crevices, and pathogens will begin to breed and multiply there. It can also happen with those branches that do crowd each other out and produce tear outs because of that. These kind of areas where pathogens can enter the tree will happen as well. So pollarding is a practice typically saved and reserved for a particular species and should be done to a tree from its infancy, meaning it's the intention to pollard is known when the tree is planted, and it's just kind of groomed that way its entire life. And it doesn't affect the tree in the same ways that something like this photo over here is showing topping the tree, where this tree doesn't look like it was pollarded its whole life. It looks like it got to a certain point and someone just decided to cut the top of the tree off and remove all of the green foliage. Pollarding is different in that it's done every year, and you can tell because it has these kind of knuckled ends at the end of the branches there. It's just done every year. This looks to be like California sycamore. It's hard to tell from this particular photo, but that's typically the species that can handle pollarding in the way that we understand that practice. Generally, PG&E is required to clear high voltage lines of trees and tree limbs. Typically, people will, think that they're doing a service to their tree or their utilities by cutting or topping a tree to make sure that it doesn't touch lines. But really, that's reserved for PG&E to clear the tree of the lines. And they have minimum distance clearance distances that they need to adhere to for that reason. If it's communication lines, like you see on the right, it looks like this tree is like growing into the lines. And this is acceptable tree growth. If there's no service cutoffs or no service disturbances to your communications, like internet cable, things like that, typically we don't prune the tree for those reasons. If there are service drops, then the service company needs to be called out in order to repair those drops, in which they will be able to do. And with that, moving Street Tree SF, this is a program that started a while ago. This is a map of the city that we've created, what we're calling key maps, and the little grid section here. We're moving through the city systematically, pruning these different key maps on a level of priority, which you can tell by the color coding here. High priority is in red, low priority is in green. These are contracted out or done by our crews internally, and you can go, oh, I'm skipping ahead, sorry about that. So since the start of this program, about 24% of the overall need for maintenance in the city has been completed, which equates to 30,000 trees have been pruned and more than 3,000 at-risk trees have been removed by the city. You can go to streettreessf.org to figure out when your particular area may be designated for tree maintenance or pruning. It doesn't show it here, but if you click this area here, you can put your address in and it'll zoom in to the section of this grid map. And you can click on the grid and it'll tell you roundabout within a year or so when your trees may be pruned by the city. When they're getting close to coming to your area, you'll get door hangers and you'll see signs out telling you that they're going to be in the area. this do not prune is just letting the community in the neighborhood know that they don't need to prune their own tree, and that the city will be out. There's a date range usually posted here, which will help you to kind of narrow in when we might be able to be out in your area to prune your trees. So there's a class that we offer for people who choose to take the class. It may result in a reduction of their fines as they relate to illegal pruning. There's a cost associated with this class. We are doing the class via Zoom, so we're working out the logistics of that. But if anybody's interested, they can contact us for that. I believe Cerise may be able to take people's information if they're interested in this tree pruning class, which we'll go over, some of the stuff that I just briefly went over in this presentation, but just best management practices and how to take care of your tree moving forward. This hearing item, 300 Berry, has been postponed. There was an issue that we needed to postpone this tree because someone lives in the area and may not be an impartial judge on this particular matter. So this is postponed until a further date. We will let you know when this is scheduled. We'll just zoom through this presentation to the next one, which brings us to our first hearing item. This is for the appeal, this is the appeal of a resident for the fine levied at 463 and 465 44th. The tree that was illegally removed is a Norfolk pine. It was kind of, looks like in a driveway of sorts adjacent to the property. It's a pretty, this is the subject tree here with the arrow below it. It's a pretty substantial tree, well on its way to maturity, 65 feet tall. This picture was taken in, looks like Google Street View in 2016. This is a photo of the tree that's been completely removed. You can see the small cuts here that are left by the tree service company that I assume did the work here to remove the tree. So this tree is, maybe it's a little bit obscure to some people, but as I said in the beginning of this presentation, that all trees in the public right-of-way are city trees and need a permit to be removed and need a permit to be issued by the Bureau of Urban Forestry to be removed before removal can happen. The public right-of-way in this particular neighborhood from the curb going towards the property is 38 feet. Our inspector here measured the distance of the public or of the right-of-way where the tree sits to be about 20 feet. So well within the public right-of-way, meaning this tree would have needed a removal permit to be removed. And that no application was sent in and no permit was issued. Again, this is a kind of an aerial view of the public right-of-way, 37.98 feet. Again, that's from the face of the curb going towards the property. This is the subject tree here, the Norfolk pine. Again, well within the 38 public right-of-way. Again, this is another shot of the tree. These pieces here, the inspector was able to go out and look at the kind of the cut up trunk and notice that there is no indication of any disease or pathogen in the trunk. So the tree was otherwise healthy, but not for the the crew that came out and started taking it down. I wonder if the appellant may have the name of the tree service company that did the work here. If they're working in the city, they are probably well aware of the regulations around San Francisco's tree ordinance and the necessity for a tree removal permit before removing a tree. So that would be some good information to have from the appellant when we get there. The amount of the, I'm sorry, the amount of the fine is 6,200. This is based on the 10th edition of the appraisal guide. It's accepted across the board in through the International Society of Arboriculture, and it's kind of an appraisal guide we use to appraise the value of any tree. It takes into account the location of the tree, the condition of the tree, the species, and it's just a formula that's plugged in, and we arrive at the 6,200, which was fine at this particular address. And that concludes the first hearing item.
Thank you. Is the property owner or appellant here to speak on this item?
Mr. Fan, we do have a translator that is present to speak on behalf of the property owner.
Okay.
Ms. Liu.
Hi, good morning. I'm Shiwei Liu. I'm actually working for San Francisco Public Works. I'm here just to help with the translation. I don't know if the owner of this property is here, and then I'd be happy to help him or her this case.
Okay. Looks like Mr. Matthew Ma is raising his hand.
Do you want me to make announcement in Chinese? Do you want me to make announcement in Chinese?
Hello, hello. Yeah, 我係
Okay.
Alice Ma.
Yeah. 你好，你係咪馬生啊？
我係馬太早晨，我係馬太 Alice 馬。
哦，馬太 ，OK， 唔該你講啊。Yeah, this is Mrs. Ma.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Can you tell her that she has 3 minutes to say whatever it is that she would like to say or to present regarding her case, and then you can translate for us, please. Can you tell her that?
Okay. 馬太係咁樣。
係我收到你哋嘅告票，但係咧即係我嗰度嗰間property 咧已經30年㗎啦，但係我哋從來都唔知道嗰個地方係屬於city 嘅。咁嗰棵樹咧幾十年大到咧就係因為嗰啲有啲好似啲大甩咁咧，好重跌落嚟咧。因為個住客咧有2個細蚊仔喺嗰度踩單車喺嗰度玩嘅，咁我兩公婆就覺得咧好危險，同埋嗰棵樹啲樹根咧越嚟越大咧，就嗰個地下咧都升起晒咧，我又驚到跌啲細蚊仔。咁我問過嗰啲人咧，佢話係你自己嘅樹，你自己地方可以鋸咗佢，所以咧我就揾人鋸咗佢。我唔知道係唔合法嘅。咁咧，而家要罰咁多錢咧，我就睇下可唔可以寬大啲處理，可唔可以盡量減啲，我就知道要罰錢㗎啦。咁之後應該點咧，就請教佢哋教我點做啦，係咁啦。
Okay, so I have owned this house for more than 30 years. I never, I was never aware that this tree actually was on a public property. I didn't know actually this area belongs to the city. So this tree has been growing to, very big. And then I have the tenants living in the building. Then, they have 2 small kids, and the kids are like sometimes, riding their bikes and then running around in the area. And then, sometimes there's something falling from the trees. And then also because the tree is so big, then, the roots are kind of like overgrown, and the trees actually uneven. And then also it's like I'm just afraid that's going to be some kind of like a tripping hazard, and it's going to be kind of like kids are for the tenants, for people. So that's why, I talked to some people and then they say, oh, this is your tree in your property. You should just, do, just do the work that you want. That's why, I asked somebody to remove this tree. I understand that now I understand, I'm not supposed to do that, but the $200 is a very large fine. I was just wondering if, I can get a deduction. I know that I have to pay the fine, but it's just a lot of money. I was wondering if, you can reduce the fine.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. And do we know the name of the contractor that removed the tree?
馬太啊，你係請邊個幫你整嗰棵樹？
我係人哋介紹，人哋叫佢嚟㗎，咁我俾咗錢佢啊，我唔知道佢係邊度㗎，我諗住佢，我問過佢，佢話唔使攞 permit 嘅，咁啊佢哋幾個鋸咗佢，咁我俾咗錢就係咁啦。
所以你唔識得嗰個 contract 嗰個係 OK， 嗰個係人哋介紹嘅，你唔知佢係邊間公司嘅咩？
我唔知啊，佢係嗰啲，佢話佢幫嗰啲做花王嘅，佢做咗10幾年，係好熟呢啲鋸樹，佢有晒嗰啲架撐，有晒剩，有晒車嚟切，即係搞晒嗰啲樹，咁我就聽佢咁講，咪做咗佢咯。我見嗰啲地下越嚟越緊要，我驚撲到人啊嘛，同埋嗰啲甩咁大嚿跌落嚟，一陣間冚親人，所以就做咗之後先知道收到信，先知道係唔合法咯。
Okay, so I got this contractor, by a referral. I don't really know this guy, but he came and he told me like, he's very experienced with the city work, and he said this does not require a permit. That's why, I just asked, and then he told me like he got all the tools and truck and everything. So that's why, I said, okay, then because the roots broken, the sidewalk is getting worse. And then I'm just worried that's somebody's going to be tripped. That's why I just, asked him to help me remove this tree. And after that, I received a letter. Then I realized that was illegal.
仲有咧，佢出邊啲 sidewalk 咧，佢哋都有整啲油咧，我哋要維修嘅。但係呢個地方咧，從來嗰啲 crack 咗咁耐咧，從來冇 city 嚟到啊，即係畫油啊，要整啊，亦從來出邊 sidewalk 嗰度咧，佢曾經 city 有人鋪過晒紅毛泥。但係入邊呢度種呢棵中間樹嗰個 lock 咧，從來冇人理過，所以我從來唔覺得咧係嗰個地方係屬於 city 嘅咯，所以係佢哋講係你嘅，咁我咪係諗住自己係自己屋主嘅咁樣話，自己要做啲嘢就係咁做咗佢咯，所以我唔知道係違法嘅咯。唔該。
你話意思，你話你個 sidewalk 有收到 city 俾嘅咩嘢關於嗰個樹嘅係嘛？
唔係，我哋呢個 lock 咧出邊仲有 sidewalk， 即係行人道咧。我哋都有2、3次咧，俾 city 即係畫咗啲油拱起嚟嗰啲咧，嗰啲 street tree 拱起嚟，我哋屋主都揾人整過㗎啦，即係再鋪嗰啲新嘅嗰啲紅毛泥咧。但係呢個 lock 咧，一路都有 crack line， 一路都有升起，但係從來 city 咧冇畫油啊，冇揾嗰啲人嚟做，咁咧我就唔覺得佢係嗰笪地方係屬於政府 city 嘅咯，一路都以為係屋主，佢出邊個 sidewalk 行人佢哋整過，我哋前邊嗰度咧就係我哋屋主收到咧就係要整，我要揾人整過啦，係咁。
Okay. I received like a notification from the city before, for those trees on the sidewalk. I think the issue was like the raised sidewalk, and then the city sent us notification, asked the property owners to fix it. I did repair it, but this big tree, I never received anything from the city, and then the city, it was like a cracked and stuff like that, but I never received something from the city. That was why I thought that was like my property. That was why the city never notified us to fix it or repair it. That was why, I never realized this actually was the city property.
Okay, thank you. That's time. Would the department like to address any comments?
Yes. So the let's see, the contractor that they contacted to do the work explained to her that they were experienced in working in the city, and if they were experienced working in the city, it would occur to me that they might reach out to the city to check to see if a tree is city property or not just assume that the tree is a privately owned tree based on its kind of visual location in proximity to the property. And they should have done that work if they have worked in the city before. Perhaps.
Do I need to translate this part?
How should we translate each portion one at a time, or shall I go through everything? How should we do this?
If I need to translate, probably,
Sure.
you pause here. Yeah. So I explained to her. Yeah. So 馬太，我哋嘅檢察員咧就話，如果你請嗰個工人咧，佢如果話佢同 City 做個工，佢知道有經驗咧，佢應該知道，如果係呢種情況，佢應該咧就同我哋 check 下睇下係咪真係需要 permit 或者唔需要㗎。
And
okay, you can go ahead.
A quick follow-up to that would be, perhaps the contractor may be a good place to pursue a way to get the fine paid, seeing as they were the licensed contractor in the area doing the work. But the next item about the sidewalk being flagged by the city and asked the homeowners to repair, before the introduction of Street Tree SF, it was the property's responsibility to repair sidewalks that were caused by tree-related issues. It was probably called out on the right-of-way closest to the street. The trees that the property owner here was calling out. The reason it may have not been called out on the location where this tree was removed was because it was behind some fencing, and then there's not necessarily obvious public access to this route. So a tripping hazard is not something that the city may have flagged for that reason. It was behind some fencing and looked like a driveway versus the sidewalk where the public regularly traverses.
Okay, so because my internet was a little breaking out. So just let me repeat what you just said, that you were saying like the reason why the city has not notified the property owner about the tree where the sidewalk, the tree was, because it was like a fenced out, and then so it seems like it's not like a people will walk into that area. So that's why the city has not notified or like sent any notification to the property owner. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's not the city's acknowledgement that the tree is not belonging to the city or that area is not public space. It's just the fact that we flag areas that may be tripping hazards in high traffic areas. Mm-hmm. So if it's not a high traffic area, the city may not have flagged this particular location where the tree that they removed for lifting sidewalks.
Mm-hmm. OK， so 馬太係咁樣嘅，你啱啱提到咧，就話你之前嗰棵樹嗰個地方咧，嗰啲 sidewalk 都有啲即係高咗啊，或者有啲問題，但係咧你見啲人會跌親，但係從嚟咧 City 都冇俾 anything 咁樣。我哋嘅檢查員咧就話，我哋通常咧，如果檢查嗰啲街樹咧，都係嗰啲街樹咧，即係多啲人可以行嘅地方嘅，所以通常都係 sidewalk。但係因為你嗰邊咧係有啲圍牆咧，即係圍住佢，所以唔係話 即係時時都係好多人會行過，所以咧我哋就冇俾即係多啲，即係更加多啲，即係資料俾你咁樣，因為你嗰個地方你唔係話好多時咧都係啲人行過去嘅咁樣。
Thank you. Marcus, is that all?
And then I just wanted to maybe just touch briefly about the request for a reduction in the fine. There, as I said, there's the pruning class that we offer for a reduction in the fine, and they're welcome to pursue that avenue, and we can follow up as that normally happens.
Okay. Ms. Liu, you want to translate that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that part because it's like my connection is very bad.
Sure. So I was just addressing the request for a reduction in the fine. They can pursue the tree pruning class in order to get a reduction through that avenue.
Okay.
If you
so
can,
they sign up for the class.
Yes. If they want a reduction in the fine, that is an avenue in which they may be able to reduce the fine amount by, I'm not sure of how much of a reduction, but it is a way to try and get a reduction of that fine.
Yes, that will be stated on the resulting decision from the director, and the director will inform the person on if they are eligible to attend the tree care class. And I did place the address in the chat for you to have them to inquire more about the tree care class. But again, that will come from the director with the resulting decision.
Okay, so just make sure I understand. So if they sign up these tree classes, they might get reduction, but we don't know how much the reduction, or if they're gonna get the reduction, right? So we don't know. So it's up to the director's decision.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Miss Liu, Miss Liu,
yeah.
Can you translate that to her and then let her know that she has 3 minutes in total to respond with any rebuttals, and that includes her time as well as yours.
Okay. So she has another 3 minutes, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So 馬太係咁樣嘅，你啱啱咧就要求係咪可以揀啲即係罰款啦咁樣嘅，所以因為咧我哋今日嘅 hearing 咧，我哋嘅檢察員同埋我哋嘅 hearing officer 咧會將你嘅 case 俾我哋嘅局長咧就會決定係咪係咩情況。佢話我哋檢察員話，如果你想減低嗰啲罰款咧，你可以參加我哋嘅即係有啲訓練嘅課程，咁你可以知道下你點樣可以保護我哋嘅街樹嘅。咁如果你參加嗰個課程咧，咁我哋都會報告俾我哋嘅局長，佢可能就會俾啲減低啲罰款俾你，但係我哋唔知係咪一定會嘅，but但係咧呢都有可能會咁樣嘅 ，OK？ 同埋咧你有3分鐘，如果你有其他嘢要講，你有3分鐘可以講咁樣。馬太，maybe she's gone.
Okay, I think we've used a lot of your time already. If there's nothing.
She's here.
課程有
Okay,
冇
we
翻
can make
譯？
this quick.
有冇廣東話㗎？
Is there like a Cantonese translation for the class, for the tree class?
We should be able to accommodate if someone is interested.
好啦，我都想
如果
學下，我都想學識點樣處理啲樹啦。我想參加啦，唔該講登記啦。
OK， 咁如果你需要廣東話翻譯，可能我哋可以揾到啲人幫你翻譯，但係咁。
Miss Liu, I think we need to close this item.
Okay, yeah, she said she's interested in signing up. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So if there's no more comments, let's move on. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this specific item? Seeing none, I will close this item and make my recommendations to the director. Thank you. The Next order
你嘅
number.
你嘅 case 已經完成啦。
OK，咁我等收到咯。
OK， yeah。
OK， 唔
Thank
該
you.
唔該。OK，thank you。
Okay, the next order number is 204289. This is to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal pruning of one street tree adjacent to 2245 28th Avenue. The fine levied for the illegal pruning is $2,193. May I have Public Works please present their presentation?
Yes. Okay, let's move into this tree. This is an Arbutus marina at the subject property. It was illegally pruned. This is a photo of the tree, before and after of the tree. As you can see, all of the green material, the leaves and the canopy was removed. This is kind of a very severe case of topping. It's going to definitely affect the tree's health in the future. These cuts, no back cuts were used. So typically when you make pruning cuts, you do a back cut closer to the stem that the branch you're cutting is emanating from, to reduce the chances of tear outs, which is this portion here. You can see the tree's bark in is torn away, starting where the cut was made. And this just opens up, as I was explaining in the beginning of the presentation, this just opens up a larger surface area for pathogens to enter the tree and cause problems for the tree in the future. Also, a lot of these, typically when you prune a branch off completely like this, you make cuts that are more flush with the main stem. You want to make cuts at the branch collar. This is, there's quite a bit of material left out here. Typically you don't see that. Anybody who has a certification through ISA would know that these cuts are not industry standard and are detrimental to the tree. So in addition to removing all the material from the tree, the green material, so the tree can no longer photosynthesize, it's left these large stub cuts on the tree, which further damage, and then also the tear outs that further damage the tree moving forward. This is a close-up of just a couple of those cuts, but again, the stub cuts and then the tear outs that just, the bark is just kind of ripped off because no back cuts were made when the pruning was being done. Again, trees growing into communication lines are something that we allow, and it doesn't necessarily cause any problems. It's the high voltage lines that we need to worry about, and in which case PG&E has an obligation to clear those lines for safety reasons, for obvious reasons. But that concludes the second item.
Okay, thank you. Is the property owner here who would like to speak? Do we know the name of the property owner?
Can you
Yes,
hear
we
me?
should have Miss Nottingham. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Go ahead.
Yes. Can I talk now?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, officer. We love tree. That's why we chose this tree, my husband and I, before I retired. So after the city came and watered the tree, we then didn't come. Then we watered it, and my husband and I maintain this tree all the time and sweep sidewalk. And after he died, 2019 July, and I tried to trim a little bit by myself, but I'm too short. I only have 4'10", and I'm senior 71. I tried my best. I could not do it, and because of COVID, I cannot ask someone to come and just thinner the tree a little bit. And all those debris and the strawberry tree and everything, the sap it's really hard to look at it, and I have to sweep it because the strawberry tree, my disabled daughter, she has cerebral palsy. She used a walker up and down to go to the program, and the step up, down at the bottom of the step is a kind of tight. It's not a concrete. So those strawberry trees she stepped on and she fell a few times. And the tree is keep growing really, really high, cover the wire, and reach out to the street, and the street cleaning truck would not clean it, the part and the pile up. So I have to take care of the street area and the sidewalk area. Each morning I go down there before my daughter will go to the program. I have to pick up the strawberry. I don't want her to step on that, and all those sap is really sticky. And on the street, she go to the get on the van. That area is very piled up too. If I don't sweep it, so then that's a lot of work for me to do, and I have to take care of my daughter and inside and all of the paperwork and all these stress and grief, losing my husband. So anyway, and one day my friend, I talked with him. That's why he had a friend, didn't know anything about the situation. But before that, I did call the 311 to help. But the 311 told me, and they will send an inspector and check. And I've been waiting for 2 months, and I have to do too much, and I sweep, I clean all these things.
30
and I
seconds.
Hold on.
You have 30 seconds. Continue.
Okay, and take too much responsibility for my daughter's safety. And my neighbor complain all these things. They don't like it. They said, we want to write a letter for you guys too, if you, and I can handle this distress and make me, that's why I make this, you know. So if you can deduct the money for me, deduction, and I really appreciate it. That is too much for me to pay because my income is for my, I take care of my daughter, and I have to pay the mortgage too.
Thank you, Ms. Waiters. Sorry. Thank you, Ms. Nottingham. That's time. Are there any members of the public or witnesses who would like to speak on this item? Okay. Would the department like to address any comment?
Yes. You know, the frustration she has with her tree is you know, we do hear these types of things coming from homeowners about the adjacent street trees. We do allow, or we do have an avenue for property owners to hire certified arborists to do the pruning work that they are seeking, in the event that the city is taking too long, because typically we're, as I mentioned before, through Street Tree SF, we're pruning and addressing street tree issues systematically. And basically that comes down to the worst first, which means that we're taking care of the trees that are in the most high traffic areas and the trees that are in the worst condition first, just to prevent any more severe problems or challenges happening throughout the city in relation to the urban forest. So we do allow property owners to hire private arborists. They just have to clear it with our department. We have to discuss it with the arborist who's doing the work to understand the scope of the work that they're trying to do and the issues they're trying to address. So this could have been addressed through that avenue if the homeowner had gone that route. The topping of this tree is very severe. I mean, given the issues that she's having with her tree, with the street tree, I don't believe it warranted that heavy of a hand in pruning this particular tree.
Have to raise your hand. Good job. Good job.
Thank you. Ms. Nottingham, if you would like to respond or have any rebuttals, you have 3 minutes. I see your hand raised. You can speak. Okay.
Actually, there are no rebuttals. It's just 3 minutes when they initially
Oh, okay.
begin. It's just one set of 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. So I will, if there's no more comments, I will close the item and we'll make my recommendations to the director on this item. The next item is order number 204290 to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal removal of one street tree adjacent to 746 Andover Street. The fine levied for the illegal removal is $2,122. May I have the department please make its presentation?
Yes. Okay, so this was for the illegal removal of a large mature stone pine at the subject property. This is a photo from 2017. This tree was actually located on the Benton Ave frontage in the public right-of-way. This is another photo in 2019 of the same tree. Looks like some kind of construction is starting to take place. It looks like they created a driveway here. And then this is the subject tree. The minimum fine issued at the time was $2,122. And the subject tree did not receive an assessment before it was removed. So that's why the minimum fine was issued rather than the assessed value of the tree, as in other cases.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is the property owner here who would like to speak?
Yes, I'm here,
Yeah, I
Mr. Fan.
see.
My name is Aniket.
All right, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. Just to provide some context, we moved into this house in October of 2019. So that's why the pictures that you see from the house before it was reconstructed, and that's why some construction pictures were there. When we moved into the house, we lived here for about 6 months, from October 19 till May 2020. And as you would see from the picture, the tree is an Italian pine cone, and the tree had a lot of debris that used to fall on our car as we are going in and out of the garage, and on top of us also while we are walking through our door, because there is a side door which is the direct access to the street as we try and get in and get out of the house. On top of that, the main problem was the pines itself. And there have been situations where with pines falling in front of us, and there was a small mishap with our small dog. We have a small dog that lives with us, and there was a pine that fell right in front of the dog. So we figured out that maybe this is a seasonal tree, and let's make sure that the season goes away and then things will be fine. We spent about 6 months assessing the tree since we moved in. And after that, we talked to 3 different arborists after that. This is just after the COVID restrictions were lifted back in May. We got 3 different teams to come and take a look at it. And all the 3 of them told us that they would not suggest doing anything to prune the tree, to remove the dead branches or remove the pines so that we can make it safer to go in and out of the house. They suggested the tree is already bent. It has a bent structure, plus it is very top heavy. And because it's so close to our house, there is a possibility of the tree falling over the house or on the street or on the car and further hurting us. So, initially we thought that we'll try and take some small measures to make sure that it's clean and it's safe to walk around. But after hearing this, we just couldn't do much, and we thought that let's just get the best guidance and try and remove it. In fact, we also asked all of them if we need any permit to get anything done on the tree, and all of them said no. And to be honest, at that time we were first-time homeowners. Before this, we've always lived in apartments around SF, so didn't realize what requires permit from SF Public Works or not, and I agree that's our fault. But to be honest, this whole decision to remove the tree was just because of safety, because we have had personal mishaps walking in and out of our house where cones or branches have fallen and our car was getting damaged. So we had to take this step.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members of the public or witnesses who would like to speak? Seeing none, would the department like to address any comments?
Only to mention again that, if they were certified arborists within the city, they will have known that this should have required a permit through our department. I can't speak to why they didn't tell these particular people that the permit would be necessary. Perhaps they were not certified. I'm not sure of the issue, but again, if they were to have contacted us, we could have talked through a treatment plan, meaning a pruning plan, to address some of the issues, even though on the outset, the 3 arborists that they spoke with reported that there was no corrective work they could have done. I think it may have helped for our department to have talked through that issue with the arborist that was going to perform the work before the tree was removed.
Okay, thank you. I will now close this item and will make my recommendations to the director. The 4th and final order that we'll discuss today is order number 204291. This is to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal removal of one street tree adjacent to 229 Judson Avenue. The fine levied for the illegal removal is $2,193. May I have the department please provide their presentation?
Yes. Okay. This is for the illegal removal at the subject property. This is a picture before the department received an anonymous phone call complaining about the issues of the canopy, kind of hindering sidewalk clearance issues. This is the tree space. So we're looking at the area here where it was paved over after it had been removed. So not only was the tree removed, but the planting location has been lost because of the pave over. The fine was issued for the total loss of the tree. And again, the breakdown of the fees for an illegal removal cover the cost for our department to plant the tree itself, and then also water for the first 3 years while the tree is established. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is the property owner here who would like to speak?
Yes, we do have Ms. Sanchez here, and I'm going to promote her to panelist because she'd like to share something. So,
Okay, great.
oh, actually, already promoted. Go ahead, Ms. Suzanne. You should be able to speak.
Okay, so my name is Dr. Suzanne Levy-Sanchez. We've owned the property since 1998. In 2008, we had to relocate due to my PhD fellowship, and we've been.
Oh. I'm sorry.
It sounds like we
Hold
lost
on.
you.
She should be coming in as panelist. There we go. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Like 3 minutes over.
No, you can start over. Yes, go ahead.
I'll share my screen after I make my short statement, just to show you guys the pictures. And you showed some of them, so we already kind of know. But so my name's Dr. Suzanne Levy-Sanchez. We've owned the property since 1998. In 2008, I had to relocate due to a PhD fellowship, and have been renting the house ever since. We actually have been wanting to move back to San Francisco, but due to my work for the US government, I've been unable to. I'm currently recovering from acute COVID and am a long hauler and have been since early September. The reason this is relevant is because I was called while I was in the hospital. My renters moved out while I was in the hospital, and I had to re-rent the place. So a real estate agent and friend of mine contacted me, and he said the tree was blocking the sidewalk and that I should remove it because it was a hazard and I was going to get sued. And I thought, oh, okay, well, as a person, I have multiple sclerosis. As a person with disability, I thought, okay, we better do that. And I was thinking I was actually doing the right thing. I didn't know I was supposed to get a permit. I know that's not an excuse, but I had no idea. And I also, we paid for that tree as well as planted it and watered it for all the years that we lived there, as well as pruned it. We did not know the laws had somehow changed. And we thought we owned it because we had planted it and paid for it ourselves through Friends of the Urban Forest. And we volunteered with Friends of the Urban Forest. So I apologize. And my real estate agent did not know either. The other problem is the contractor's not known. I've asked my real estate agent repeatedly, but he paid in cash. There was someone pruning trees on the street and he hired them to do it and he paid in cash. And I apologize. I am a very active environmentalist. I did not mean to do any harm, nor would I ever. I have volunteered with Forest Ethics and Rainforest Action Network. And in the past year, I have planted 14 trees on my property here in Rhode Island. So I wouldn't want to do any harm, nor would I ever. I actually thought I was I thought I was being helpful. So I sent pictures via email. I'm just going to show you some of those pictures really quickly. I also want to say that as a person in a mixed race couple, we have experienced repeatedly on our street certain forms of racism. And so I want to also show pictures of other trees that have been removed that where the neighbors were not fined. And because all the neighbors planted trees in front of most of the houses at the same time with Friends of the Urban Forest. And somehow none of my other neighbors have been reported. So there has not been equity in the situation, not due to DPW's fault, but due to the neighbors who, when we lived there, incessantly complained about everything we did. We had a very hard time buying a house in the neighborhood.
30 seconds remaining.
Okay, so here are the pictures. Can you guys see? Can you see the pictures?
Yes, yes, okay. You can see it.
So this is it before. And so we thought this was blocking, or my real estate agent and friend Andrew Lamont did. And there's the picture, not a good picture. And then here's it where it was cleared. Here are the two side by side. And then here's where the utilities were. So my real estate agent also thought it was going to interfere with the utilities. I know that doesn't matter to DPW, but it was something he was worried about. This is my neighbor's property. Let me show you. And this is where he removed his tree. And you can see these little spaces all up and down the street. That is, again, not an excuse. But I think given that mine was one of the only trees left from that original planting. And so we thought, oh, everybody else has removed it because they're hazardous. So we honestly thought we were doing the right thing. And I guess the other problem is, since I've been in Afghanistan and Tajikistan so much, I never got letters or notices about these new legal changes. I tried to change my address with the city of San Francisco several times, and for some reason it didn't take. So I haven't gotten the mail that I should have. Sorry for taking.
Thank you. That's time.
Mhm.
Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this issue? Seeing none, would the department like to address any of those comments? Marcus, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yes, just to go over the status of the trees. In July of 2017 is when Proposition E was on the ballot. And I think it was overwhelmingly voted in favor for. And what it did was it changed the status of the trees being privately owned, and the responsibility of, I'm sorry, not privately owned, but the responsibility of the adjacent homeowners to the responsibility of San Francisco Department of Public Works, Bureau of Urban Forestry. That means that we took over as of July 2017, the maintenance, pruning, removal of all street trees in San Francisco. So it was a campaign that was hard fought, and it took about a couple of years. So I'm not sure as to why some people didn't hear about it, but it was on the ballot. It was voted on and passed by the residents of San Francisco. Having said that, the maintenance and the care for the trees is our responsibility, along with any tree-related sidewalk damage. or any, if there's a case brought for a trip and fall or something like that, that's the city's responsibility if it's found to be tree related. So concerns of a tree being hazardous in those ways, I know it doesn't, nobody wants to see somebody injured because of a tree, but the recourse is the city's responsibility if, you know, God forbid something does happen to somebody as a result. And you know, I would just caution against hiring people that you see working on trees. Making sure people are credentialed is always a good practice. You know, things like this happen if people are not credentialed and they're hired to perform work that they're not trained to do. And that's it. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Okay, thank you. I will now close this item and will make my recommendations to the director. That looks like it concludes our all 4 of our order numbers today. Are there any public comments on any of the items in the agenda? This is for those who have not spoken yet, who might have come late or didn't have a chance to speak.
I just want to reiterate to Ms. Suzanne that you are able to send us any additional comments to the urban forestry at SFDPW as well. And then that can be, I will forward that to the hearing officer, and that will be considered as additional testimony. So you are able to continue, if you wanted to add to your testimony, you can do it through writing. And I will, again, that's urban forestry at sfdpw.org. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see no one new on the call. So if there's no more public comments, I am closing this hearing. This hearing is now closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.